Right, huge welcome to Thomas Sheridan with Before Freedom. Researcher, artist, author and more, Thomas examines what the powers that be might have in store for humanity now that social engineering and propaganda have reached their current level of refinement. By the powers that be, I don't mean your elected MPs, by the way. Our reality is being altered before us and for us, and most don't notice or won't believe it. Thomas tonight brings an awareness of this social emergency, and assistance can maybe expose this evil and loosen its grip on our and future generations. Thomas's website is all the W's, thomassheridanarts.com. Please welcome Thomas Sheridan.
Looking back here, and the last time I was here, I think it's around this time last year, I spoke about basically the history of monotheism, how from Zoroastrianism the idea of duality was created, a good and an evil, a good God and an evil God, and then you were put into a position where you had to choose a side. And from Zoroastrianism, there was mainly monotheism came out of that, which was the Abrahamic religions, the Jehovah God, the Yahweh God, and the idea of one God, one king, one emperor, one leader. That was the end of it. At the same time, there was other interesting aspects that came out of that, such as the Cathars, which I spoke about last time, and the Bogomils, and other groups that were more flexible in their understanding and eventually came to come to see that the God of the Old Testament, they believed, was actually a psychopathic demon pretending to be God. And there's some interesting, well, shall we say, evidence regarding that. If you look at the Jehovah's Witnesses Bible, you will see that it deliberately mentions specifically that on the first page of Genesis that God created this, God created that. And then right before the creation of mankind, something appears out of the blue called Jehovah God. This thing jumps in called Jehovah God, no explanation of who Jehovah God is. And so groups like the Cathars and the Bogomils and the Gnostics believed that Jehovah or Yahweh was actually a demon, and the way they described it was a psychopathic kind of demon that was pretending to be God. Now, if you're religious or Christian or anything like that, please, I'm not here to bang any kind of drum in favor of anything. I'm not criticizing anything like that. You could believe what you believe, and I'm just here, presenting what I've discovered. But tonight, I called this talk Before Freedom. And I have to be honest with you, I thought last year, when I was here last year, I thought when I'd come back this year, I'd actually be more positive. I would actually trying to see things in a more positive light. And I have to be honest with you, I've actually gone darker in how I see things. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it's what I don't know if you know about me, but I've written 2 books on psychopathology. And my attitude is, if you know you're dealing with a psychopath, well, you know how to avoid them. And we're dealing with a psychopathic system that breeds a kind of infection that's damaging to the human psyche and has sort of rattled through history. Now, before I start, I'm going to be giving it up big time to royalty tonight. Please don't assume that I'm a Paddy who's come over here with a polemic, that I'm knocking your culture or anything like that. I don't like any royalty. I'm not an Irish Republican or anything like that. I'm here specifically out of the research into my most recent book, Valpurgis Night. And I just wanted to know why history went wrong. And a huge part of that would be a continuation on from this monotheistic one God. This is why I'm pretty close to an atheist at this point. However, I do believe that there are dark forces running this world, but I don't see them as a supernatural thing. I see them more as a damage, almost like a corruption of human consciousness. And that wisdom is the real issue. And I think the Enlightenment of the 1700s was never fully completed, mainly because, and I'll talk about this, it fell under the jurisdiction of royal families who had a vested interest in keeping their bloodlines going. And this is the main reason I have an issue with royalty. I don't care if it's British royalty, French royalty, Dutch, Norwegian, I don't care. My attitude is this is an archaic idea that does not belong in the modern world. And my main reason for this was I don't think it's healthy when people reduce their reproduction ideas to the level of livestock. Like, that's really, you see how, they talk about Kate Middleton, how she's a commoner. She's not a commoner. Diana wasn't a commoner either. This is just like these kind of ideas they throw out there. And I find it quite incredible how they, were told, and quite right because there's plenty of scientific evidence for this, that inbreeding causes cognitive decay over the centuries. Yet it doesn't apply to them. They're obsessed with bloodlines, they're obsessed with maintaining structures, and this is all very strange to me. I mean, I was thinking the other night, like the first time that, again, I'm not knocking the culture, the first time that Prince William had sex with Kate Middleton, when he said, "Who's your daddy?" that wasn't a rhetorical question. You have to know. And so, this to me is some very strange way these people live, and I think they still have far too much power in the world, and I'm going to talk through this tonight. Another thing I'm quite upset about, and I don't care who hears about this in this movement, is this growing anti-Semitism. I think it's unhealthy. I think it degrades. Yes, Zionism is a problem, big time. I don't like Israel, what the state of Israel stands for, but we have to remember, we have to maintain our humanity all the time. We cannot fall into certain traps. And again, I have to stress again, I'm not telling we should hate these people I'm going to bring up tonight. We should understand what's wrong with it, avoid it, and hopefully develop as a better people. Now, I called this Before Freedom, and it sounds very grandiose. I'm coming here to say the world will rise up, and it's all going to be free. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm here to tell you we're all shagged. Honestly, it's really the way things are going with transhumanism, the growth of religious fanaticism in the Middle East and elsewhere. But freedom is not to go down that road, and not to be dragged down that road, and to rise above that, to rise above what's thrown at you. Just because transhumanism, just because religious sectarianism, just because the food has no nutritional value in it, and everything else, we avoid it. We avoid it, and I think that's the best we can do, is kind of be like the Gnostics, be like the Cathars, and pass on to the next generation. Look, we discovered this on our journey, and hopefully we can sort of create a snowball effect where I would say a group of survivors were inside the human race who hold the old knowledge inside us,